So,
Oh,
aha, there he goes.
hello.
Good evening. We will call the meeting to order now that Al's here. It's 4 minutes after 6. So it's not too shabby. Okay. I'm going to make a statement before we get started. It says voices. Well, you ready? Okay. Voters had a choice in August and November. With this choice, they determined that I was going to be their superintendent for Bath Charter Township. From the first board of trustees meeting in November, just so you know, 2020, the board determined that I was not their choice. A very short time later in March, nothing has changed. You, the voters, have chosen me for transparency and honesty within your local government. I've worked very hard to make sure that this comes true. As many of you have seen, I've met with opposition. Tonight's meeting will be no different. It'll be the same. Earlier, I was told that there needed to be an adjustment. I completely understand how very hard it is to put the genie back in the bottle. However, under the Charter Township Act of 359, 1947, 4210 gives the board the authority to appoint with limited power the superintendent. However, in paren O, it allows the board to prescribe by direction other duties to be delegated. Now enter your board meeting rules of order. It's page 3 of your agenda, and it's number 5, regular meeting agenda. Trustee Amaji, there you are, thank you for being here, wanted to substitute and wants to substitute superintendent for supervisor when preparing the Board of Trustees agenda, among another many changes to our meeting rules. So with that being said, we will move to Taylor to give us, excuse me, I must have a frog in my throat tonight, to give us the procedures of what needs to be done for people to participate.
When we get to public comment, if you would like to make a public comment at that time, you can raise your Zoom hand, raise your physical hand if you have your video turned on, or if you are dialing in, you can dial *9 to raise your hand, and then you will be addressed either by name or by the last 3 numbers of your phone number.
Thank you, Taylor. Pledge of Allegiance, followed with a moment of silence. Trustee Benzie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Approval of the agenda. Yes, go ahead.
I have a couple of additions to the agenda. The first one I'm not quite sure where to put. The Public Art Committee has voted to request that the board consider adding 2 additional members to its committee. I'm wondering if we could add that under the agenda item 12, committee appointments, discussion and a vote on that. And then I'd also like to make a recommendation for an appointment to the Public Art Committee.
Okay, now Karen's going to have to help me on this one. Our rules say that they can't produce this until the next meeting. Because he's amending the agenda, is that going to be okay?
That's for changing board rules, I believe. I think if he's just changing the agenda, that you just need a roll call of the
right
members to do that.
Okay, no, that's what I was asking you, because that's my understanding. So if we need a majority, which is 4 votes, that's 2/3 vote.
Madam Chairman, Alan has
Yes.
his hand up.
Yes, Alan.
I would like to question the number 14, 2C. change meeting time from 10 to 9. That is not really, the meeting is at 6. The ending time
Right,
changes from 10 to 9, and that don't say that.
yeah, it says it. Okay, no, that's part of what trustee Amagia wanted to do with changing the rules. I was unaware that there was going to be changes in the rules, so that's why it was put that way. And yes, you do want to change it from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
As ending time, not
Right.
starting time.
Right. Okay. So I'm assuming that will be addressed during the time that Jason will be reading, or at least requesting an amendment. So make sure that's the correct. Does that sound right? Is that okay with you?
Would you repeat that?
Okay. When trustee Amarigi, there you go, is going to discuss the changes in the board meeting, that
Right.
includes it in there.
Okay,
Okay, because I was unaware that that's what was going to be done. Okay, so is there any other changes? Oh, we need to vote on whether with Amarigi, I'll get it right eventually. It's not that hard. Whether or not we want to accept the amendments for the changing for the packet.
I move we accept the packet with the
Okay.
changes.
Is there a second?
With that,
Okay, thank you, Ben. All right, need a vote. And again, because this is a change, it's being done to our meeting rules, we're gonna need 2/3 of a vote, which again is 4. So, yes,
No.
it is.
No,
This is a
Okay.
change to the agenda.
It's changing.
we're not changing the board rules right now. We're changing the agenda.
We are changing the agenda with the board rule of being able to add to it. So,
We're not changing the board rules right now.
okay, we're not changing the board rules. What we're doing is changing the agenda. So would you like to vote on that or not? It's entirely up to you guys.
There's a motion and a second. We have to
Yes,
vote.
there is.
Almarigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
yes,
Hewens Bliss,
Yes,
Mr. Rosecrans,
Yes,
Ms. Howe.
Yes, we can go ahead and do that. Okay. So now, are we going to approve the agenda as amended?
we just did.
Okay, we're going to go disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any? Apparently not. Okay. Public statements. Is there anyone out there that you're
If
aware
anyone would
of?
like to make a public statement at this time, you can do so by raising your physical hand, raising your Zoom hand, or dialing *9. John, I
It
saw
looks
you
like
first,
Mr. Reich.
so
Yep.
go ahead.
I need to unmute.
Yep, I just unmuted you. Oh,
I'd like to make a comment to the supervisor about the DDA. You said you've been elected to represent the people in the township, Marie, and you
Correct.
can't appoint anybody to the DDA. The DDA has $250,000 of funds that could be dispersed for infrastructure improvement in the DDA district, roads, sidewalks, street lighting, and et cetera. And there's been no committee appointments made to that group at all. So no money can be dispersed without an active committee.
Mhm.
What point do you plan on doing anything about this? This will be your 3rd month in office.
This is my 9th meeting.
Correct.
Yes. Is it okay if I answer that? Sometimes in public statements, you don't like to have people answer them.
You're the
You
chair.
don't have to.
No, I don't, but I will. One of the things that I have pointed out with the DDA is that it's a very crucial committee, like the Planning Commission and zoning. Those are very important. DDA is very important. It's very near and dear to my heart. I do not want to piecemeal it. And I've talked to people and they understand that when I'm able to produce the full committee, it will be brought towards the board for their approval if that's what they want. At this time, piecemealing it, I think would be a problem.
Well, I understand your position, but there's also grant money available out there at a 20/80 match. So that's like going into the store and giving the store a $20 bill. They give you back $100. And I would think we'd be amiss to take advantage of some of those grants.
I understand that. I'm looking at the long run of what the DDA can and will do for this community. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any other public statement?
Thad, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I'm joining on audio today as I'm in transit. Thank you for the opportunity to make a brief statement. I want to thank you for your time on the agenda this evening to provide an update on the adult use ordinance. We are excited to be building a state-of-the-art medical facilities actually on the property which has been purchased. We are looking forward to seeing some of you at the groundbreaking in a few weeks. And I just wanted to thank you all for your continued focus on these important issues so we can be sure to incorporate the most up-to-date community priorities. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a public statement at this time? Do not see anything additional.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here from the county, state, federal, or other agencies?
If so, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. I do not see anyone.
Okay, we'll go to 8, our consent agenda. We could, yes, Jason, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like the Board of Review minutes removed from the consent agenda.
We have a second?
We don't need a second.
No.
When you remove something from the consent agenda, you're saying you can just do that?
Yep, it says so right on the agenda, Madam
Oh, I'm sure
Supervisor.
it does. Okay. So if someone's opposed to it,
It doesn't matter. It says so right on the agenda, Madam Supervisor.
I mean, it says on the agenda, maybe not that the board can remove it, any item, and placed elsewhere. Do we want it placed elsewhere or not?
Jason?
Yes.
Okay,
Where? I don't know. Do we want to add it to township committee reports for a discussion item?
I was gonna say, can we put it for discussion?
Sounds good.
Okay. Approval to Treasury Board Committee appointments. I'm looking for discussion. Unfinished business? No, that's, you want a new business? Introduction and discussion? Does that sound right?
I have
15.
something under number 13, township committee reports. Again, I don't know if that's the best fit, but
Okay. Well, you remove the minutes, so it would be a new business items for introduction or discussion, I think,
That's fine.
which would be 15. Ryan, does that sound right to you?
I'm happy to place it wherever you want to.
I'm sure you are, but that's okay. If 15 works, does that work for everybody?
I don't know what that means.
Whatever that. Okay. All right, we're going to put it on 15 then. The Board of Review minutes removed for discussion. Okay. We need approval of the vouchers now. Our treasurer isn't here tonight, so
You got to vote on this yet.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda
thank you.
With the
A
change,
second?
with the changes.
I'll second it.
Okay, with changes. Vote, roll call.
Mr. Benzi,
Yes,
Mr. Funes Bliss,
Yes,
Mr. Rosecrans,
Yes,
Mr. Elmer,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Howe,
Yes. At least I'm not alone. We're going to call you Smith or Jones. Okay, those consent agenda passes. We need approval of vouchers, and again, our treasurer's not here, but we'll need to vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Thank you.
Or
Discussion? None? Need a vote? Record roll call?
Elmerigi,
yes.
Benzi,
Yes,
Funes Bliss,
yes,
Rosecrans,
yes,
and Howe.
Yes. All right, item 10, which is approval of your draft minutes. We have March 1st Board of Trustee meeting and February 16th, and I think Trustee Funes Bliss, you wrote those?
yes.
Because we didn't, okay. So do we want to approve those? Go ahead, Al.
I move we approve the
Okay,
March 1st and the February 16th
16th.
Board of Trustees meeting.
thank you.
And
have a
then
second?
also,
Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to say to Mr. Bliss, it's a wonderful job you did.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, guys. That was a good idea. All right, so we have the second. I'm assuming one of the two of you. Did we get a second, Madam Clerk?
Joe did.
Okay. Now record roll call vote.
Are we approving them together or separately?
No,
Together.
together.
Okay. Funes Bliss,
Yes,
Rosecrans,
Yes,
Elmerigi,
Yes.
Benzi,
Yes,
and Howe.
Yes. We don't have a treasurer report at this time. So 12 is going to take us to our committee appointments. And we have 3 is what's been suggested. So we have Park Lake Advisory, which is John Erkin. You want to take these together or separate? It's up to you. I would just assume do them separate, but it's up to you.
I'll move to appoint John Yurkan to the Park Lake Advisory Board with a term ending December 31, 2023. Is that what we were hoping for?
I'll second that.
Are you thinking that's going to give him 2 years?
Usually it's printed on the agenda, the term, so I don't mean to say something that is not intended. I'm just putting that out.
No, that's a good thing to know. No one's ever mentioned that before, so
Is the Park Lake Advisory Board typically 3 years? Karen shaking.
Yes,
her
it
head.
is 3 years.
yes. So if you do 21, 22, 23, it's 24. It would be,
It would be from the
February
end of
24.
2020. So it would be 20, 21, 22,
is
23.
that what you want to
That's when
take
the
it?
term was
Okay,
done.
then it's, So if you're taking it from 2020,
That's when the term was vacated, so it has.
but that doesn't, but he wasn't reappointed, well, whatever.
It's a
Okay.
term. It's not about a person, it's about a term.
It's about, yeah, I understand that. But the term wasn't, well, anyway. All right, 2023, whatever, however you decide you want to do it. All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, Rick, a roll call vote? 'Cause I'm
Bensy,
assuming there's no discussion with it.
Yes.
Stevens Bliss,
Yes,
Rosecrans,
Yes,
Al Marigi,
Yes.
and Howe.
Yes,
Thank you.
no, thank you. All right, Planning Commission. Joel Gusky,
I'll make a motion to appoint Joel Gutsky
Gutsky,
to the Planning Commission for an appointment of, what is that, a 3-year appointment? 12/31 of 23.
if you're taking it back, okay. I will remember trustee Feedwin Bliss, so I've written to myself a note that you would prefer to have, so that you'll know when they're gonna
Thank you.
have it, so thank you. All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
I have a question as well.
yes, discussion.
Is he replacing someone specific?
I talked today with the planning commissioner and he was thinking about Stan. He said he wasn't sure what Jason was going to be doing. So at this point, it appears that's what he's looking at. So if that's what the board's looking at, then,
That would be fine.
okay. Okay, so that's our discussion. Now we need a vote.
Stevens Bliss,
Yes,
Rosecrans,
yes,
Al Marigi,
Yes.
Bensy,
Yes,
Howe.
I'm going to say no. And not because I really was tickled pink when Joel let me know. Okay.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
And I'm sorry, who's,
Gail.
This is Bert Gale.
oh, yes, Bert.
Because we only have one township board member on the planning commission.
That's correct. Well, you actually have two.
We do?
You do.
When it's my turn to speak later, we'll talk more about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll take your amendment, trustee Almagy, with regards to your art advisory committee.
So I'd like to propose, bring to the board 2 items. The first
Okay.
is the Public Art Committee met last Wednesday, and for those of you who may or may not know, it is a committee of volunteers to support public artworks. They have no budget, and so one of the things that they discussed and we voted on was to make a request to the board to increase the number of members of the Public Art Committee from 7 to 9, so that there was more human capacity to get the work done. So I'd like to see if you'd be willing to entertain that to make that official. So that's the first thing.
Okay. You want to take your one motion at a time?
Please.
Okay. So the motion then is, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan. I was going to repeat the motion.
I just had a question, but I can wait.
No, it's as good a time as any.
I know
Oh.
the Senior Services Advisory Committee has also asked us to do this, and we have not yet do that. Does this set a precedent that we would allow any committee that is looking to expand? Do we have the people in the pipeline to fill with these seats?
So I can speak to the Public Art Committee. That's, yes, we have a very good applicant that the second part is I'd like to make a nomination for her appointment to the Public Art Committee.
Well, we have one. You're gonna have to wave it, Karen. You're too little. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I would just note that I think it's up to the board each and every time there's a request brought to you that you could determine whether or not to approve expanding a committee. Sometimes in this case, it's because there's no budget and they need more people to do the work. In terms of the Senior Advisory Committee, they may ask to expand for a special project like they did back when we expanded the kitchen. So I think every request could be considered by the board and voted on by you. You're the ones to make the decision.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second
Thank you. All
Just
right.
to clarify, I made the motion.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm not sure there was a motion that was made, unless you're interpreting what I asked as a motion.
No.
So I can amend what I said to, I move that we,
Right. I thought that's what you said. You moved to expand it from 7 to 9. Okay.
yes.
Okay, that's what okay. And we have a second, so then discussion. I think we already had that, so we need a vote.
Al Marigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Stevens Bliss,
Yes.
Rosecrans,
yes.
Howe.
Yes, it's a great idea. Second part,
Second part is I had emailed board members an application for Amber. If I butcher the last name, I apologize to Amber, but Visachula.
she's used to it.
So Amber Visachula, she is a graphic designer by training. She lives over by Park Lake area, and she comes highly recommended by the chair of the Public Art Committee. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve her appointment to the Public Art Committee for a term of 3 years ending on December 31st, 2023.
Second,
Yes, go ahead.
I
There's a
said second.
question. No, you second, but there's a question with discussion.
I'm sorry, maybe I misheard this. Does she have an application on file?
She does.
She does, okay, and it's gone through the signature check, all the things that we do for everybody else.
Absolutely. She's had it in for quite a while, actually.
Okay,
I just found it. And I've talked with her. She's very excited. So thank you for doing that. All right, do we need a vote?
Yes,
Okay, we're ready to vote. We have a record roll call vote.
Rosecrans,
yes.
Al Marigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Stevens Bliss,
yes,
Howe.
Yes. All right. That was already, I think that was it. That was the 3 for your committee appointments. So now we go to 13, which is our Township Committee report. Where is Mr. Haynes? Oh, there you are. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, there. Yeah,
There you
Tiff
go.
Got me both unmuted and stopped to open my video.
Okay.
And just check and sound check. You know, it's all,
Yep, you're
all
good.
working. Okay, good. So, well, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to the board. Kind of with changes in the board, I think it's particularly important for us to be able to kind of present the report in a little bit of detail, although I think it's my understanding you've all received the kind of electronic copy of the report. So I'll try to be brief, you know, use your time efficiently. Our board's main goal is to advise the township on actions kind of concerning the lake. Probably the biggest thing is the treatment of the kind of overly abundant plant growth, the weeds in the lake. And to kind of help do that, we gather information. So I think you'll see in the report, you know, a lot of it contains a lot of details that I'm not going to go into today. But obviously I'm happy to happy to chat with anyone about any of those details. kind of summarizing 2020, it was a heck of a year for everyone, but I think we were able to still really be effective in a lot of ways. And I think 2020 really highlighted the value of the lake to the citizens of Bath Township as well as the surrounding area. Some of the things that we were able to do, we were able to gather data on the plant growth in the lake, on the water quality, water levels, which are critical. And then we do have preliminary data on part of the year for boater use, and I'll summarize that. I think that's kind of interesting information. In the past, we were able to get data on fish, the E. coli at the beach, and various other items concerning the lake, but 2020, we weren't able to get those couple items. Kind of some of the highlights of accomplishments in 2020 are that we were able to work with Parks and Rec Committee and the Friends of Park Lake, which is outside of our government structure, but certainly a key citizen group, to promote the development of the trail on the south and the kind of south and west side of the lake. So that proposal is before you all somewhere in the process. We worked with the Friends of Park Lake and the County Drain Commissioner's Office in the spring of 2020. There were issues with the water level being really too high and not really directly related to the water control level structure itself, but to kind of other, if you will, plumbing issues that were associated with water flow under Park Lake Road and elsewhere. So that situation was addressed and rectified by the County Drain Commissioner. We meaning that the township provides funds to PLM. I forget the name of their acronym, but the lake management company that we've used for a long time to work on weed control, and really the approach we've been using has been quite successful in suppressing some of the non-native plants. So that I think has been, where our advice to you and the board's willingness to continue treating the lake has really kept the lake kind of in a good shape. A couple things I think to highlight. As I said, 2020 was tough for everyone, but the lake really provided, I think, a key outlet for a lot of people. And, it was a venue people could go to both for swimming at the beach. And we haven't done any counts of that, but I live on the lake, and looking across the lake, the beach was full every nice day. And it's hard to put a value on that. But again, I think people appreciated both the township's efforts to keep the beach in good shape, keep the weeds at bay. We've done some preliminary boat counts. We have complete counts from a game camera we deployed in 2019. We've gone through some of the photos in 2020. There are literally thousands of photos that we go through and count the boats visible from a single vantage point. And in May of 2020, it was double the use in 2019. We finished May and June only, and cumulatively, it's 50% more than in 2019. So the lake, again, anybody who's lived near it and looking at it, was really heavily used. And I think I wouldn't say abused. It provided an outlet for people to get out and enjoy nature, enjoy themselves and kind of de-stress. So I think that's some of the main things in terms of accomplishments. I think one thing to emphasize, the weed treatment program is for non-native plants. That is the constraints that the operators and the state have on weed control. The lake is full of native plants, and the list that's in the back of the report kind of highlights that. And we are trying to work with folks to better understand and educate folks that yes, the weeds are a problem if you can't run your boat through, but if they are native plants, the operator just can't go in and willy-nilly kind of nuke them out of there. That isn't within their permit allowances. So that's the quick summary. As I said, happy to kind of address any questions. Some questions that our board has for your board, really a couple focal areas. One, we were concerned with the kind of minimal contact between our board and the Board of Trustees.
Right.
Now that we've got one of the Board of Trustees members appointed to us, that'll facilitate those communications. So that's one item we were concerned about, but has been addressed. A second, though, is we're still, as a board, somewhat in the dark about the kind of the plans the board has for the boat launch area, kind of timing, renovations. We haven't been asked to provide any advice on that, but we aren't aware of any details on that. Likewise, it's my understanding there's a property that sits to the north of the park and the property on the other side of the road that the township's acquired. And again, if there's plans for that relate to the lake, we'd like to at least be able to have a chance to offer, advice on that. And then finally, again, with a new board, new members on the board, we want to kind of hear you. We'd like two-way communication, and any priorities that you would like addressed for us to at least provide advice on. We're open to that. You'll see in our packet the way we operate as a board. We have an action item list that we update monthly and put the bookends so you can see kind of where we started and where we ended. A future item list of things that aren't urgent, but we sometimes call a parking lot, kind of good ideas, but we may not have the people to do it or the funds. But again, just to kind of institutional memory, we're all temporary on all these positions, and that's a critical function of again, these boards is keeping some record of what's going on. So with that, I again appreciate the opportunity to speak to you briefly here, and happy to answer any questions or concerns you might have.
Trustee Amadrizi, go ahead.
I just want to say that I really appreciate the report and how comprehensive it is, and the vast amount of data and information. I do have one question though. So I'm looking at Appendix R. This is the boat count.
Right.
For the 2019 year, and who counted 5,066 photos for 3,617 boats?
I did all of 2019 myself. I have the game cameras I put on my deck on a post. It takes a picture every half hour from all of May through October, and then I sit and count. Try to classify, if you'll, motor or other boats versus kayaks and canoes, because I think, again, I'm weird. I'll say that. But I also feel factual data is critical. So I just kind of read through that. So the caveat that actually is an undercount of the total boats, because the view from my home doesn't include the whole lake. There's parts of it, back in the canal there that people use all the time that I just don't see. So it's a kind of a relative minimum count. But it does, again, there are thousands of boater hours on the lake, and the value of that, we have economists at MSU, I don't know the numbers, but often like a fishing trip, an individual trip is valued at $50 to $100 per trip. And that's again, I don't understand economic values, but it certainly does bring money into the township area, brings people, brings community. Again, there's tremendous value. I mean, it's a labor of love that we all do. So.
I want to salute you on your commitment to data. It is very clear.
Thank you.
Dan, I have a quick question, just what you were saying. Are you saying that each time there's a boat on the lake, that it's bringing in $50 to $100 to the township? I mean, by that to Park Lake, where they're going to the store?
It doesn't mean it's money in. Again,
okay.
My economist colleagues have tried to explain it, and I don't comprehend their explanation. They use the term value differently than I think I do, and the average person does. It is of value to a person. In other words, if you were to pay for a fishing trip, not the focus is fishing trips, how much would you pay to go fishing for half a day on Park Lake? And that's one kind of willingness to pay is one way of measuring that. So likewise, boating, How much are people willing to pay? And there's, when we say pay, I've met a fella, he lives in Grand Rapids, drives to Park Lake to boat on Park Lake. Now, he's not paying money for that directly. There's no, admission fee, but he's paying time and gas and mileage.
Right.
And the economists use these kind of non-pay type of situations to infer what the value is. So like I said, fishing trips somewhere on the order of $50 a trip. The boating, again, I don't know what the kind of per hour. We can't count and uniquely identify individual boats. And I don't know if I'd want to do that anyways, but again, if you think about people renting a kayak, people will pay on the order of, $5 to $10 an hour to rent a kayak. And if they had a motorboat, it might be on the same order. So if I were to, kind of get a gut level guess, take those numbers, and kind of get per hour times that, and it adds up to value to people that they actually don't have to pay for, but they receive the benefits to them. Again, but it does bring, now we have the store back on the corner, they're seeing the boaters, obviously are coming in for, whatever needs they have for their trip.
Okay, no, thank you. That helped enormously.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Looks like Jason has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So speaking of value, I want to give a shout out to Randy, the ubiquitous person on the Bath Community News Group that brings a lot of value to that particular Facebook group in terms of all the photos that he shares of beautiful Park Lake.
You're here. Good point. Al, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, you used the word abuse of the lake. What was your meaning to that?
I said the lake is being used, but not abused.
Oh, not abused. Okay.
Not
I didn't catch
abused.
that.
Again, we could, you can imagine it's not a big lake. And if there were a lot of overly powerful boats on the lake, I would view that as abuse, and that creates waves that erode the shoreline, creates a safety hazard with the number of kayaks. But we didn't really see any, even with the number of people we had on the lake, I didn't see anything, like was concerning me in that regard. So yeah, hopefully I didn't misspeak earlier.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, go ahead.
Yes, Dan, your report is excellent. There's a lot of historical information contained in that document. And as you stated, we're not all here forever. So it's really nice to have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. In fact, I wrote myself notes. I hadn't finished reading it yet. I have probably 3/4 of it done. There's a lot of detail in that. But thank you so much for coming tonight to talk to us. That is greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, that was our pleasure. All right, is there any other statements or questions for Mr. Hayes? Job well done. Thank you.
Okay. Well, hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, we're going to go to 14, which is our unfinished business or old business. And these are committee names, is what our first, and I think you have a copy. Hopefully you have a copy. Suggestions for consideration. Is that a yes? Okay. So what these are, if you can look at them and read them, you can see your statutory and your advisory. And looking to, some of them already have the correct names for them, whether it's advisory or your Senior Services Advisory Committee. For some reason, somebody's been calling it a senior center. Is that's at the bottom of the page. So anyway, for what it's worth, do you want to take these one at a time or do you want to take them all at once?
I say all at once.
Okay. Then we need a motion, and the motion would be to review these names and take them as changes. Some of them, most of them are pretty much the same. And I need a second.
Madam Supervisor, I did not make a motion.
No,
Oh, you did.
yeah.
Okay.
Which most of the time you're not supposed to, but because it was my issue. Okay, you're all staring like you don't know what I'm saying. So there is no second, so it's going to die. That's fine. Okay. All right, we're going to move on then to, let's see, Dan, we did on, to B, which is your board meeting format, how the board will proceed, and that is Superintendent Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. In your packet, I wrote a memo to you all asking for your consideration of how you would like to proceed as a board. And I'm sure there are different feelings from different people about holding meetings in person as opposed to continuing to hold meetings electronically. If there is interest in holding meetings in person, I can take pictures and send them to you if you have not seen them, but we do have some acrylic barriers that can be placed between each person at the board table to prevent, I won't say prevent, but to shield you from aspirations from different people. Those could be used along with additional masks if you would like to do that. At this time, we can have up to 25 persons or fewer in the board room. So it would have to be, we would have to be kept to that amount per the Department of Health and Human Services. The other option is to continue to monitor what's going on at the state and as well as Clinton County. As long as there is an emergency order in place, we can continue to meet electronically. But I'm interested in the discussion so that staff can understand where you all are and how you would like to move forward.
Go ahead, Al.
Karen, does what is the county and state saying now?
At this point, I don't know what you're asking me specifically, but there is an uptick in Clinton County as to COVID numbers. Hospitalizations as well as cases, as well as testing are all up in Clinton County per the last EOC call that was held last Friday. With those conditions in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if the county moved to extend their local state of emergency, but they do not meet until the last, I believe it's Thursday of the month, or Tuesday of the month, excuse me. And we should know, and that's the week that we would be putting together a board packet for the following, the first April meeting. So we would have an indication then if you were interested in doing that. But if that answers your question, Al?
Yeah, I see where the school has, 7 and 50 people in quarantine. I just wonder how much that's going to affect the township.
It's very possible that it would. We have, it affects the township not only because of the students that are in school, but during the last exposure, one of the students that was exposed was a member of a family of a staff member. So it's going to affect both the schools and it's going to affect possibly the township staff.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question? Because I have one if nobody else is going to speak. Apparently.
Sure.
My only question, Karen, would be in what you've written, it states that this will be held from March 31 of 2021 till December.
That's the state statute that relates to this, that as long as there's a state of emergency in the state or at the county level, they're allowing meetings to be held electronically.
but that's specific, right? Is that, for example, because the governor signed the bill in December?
Yep.
And she said military duty, medical conditions, or statewide, or local state emergency,
Mhm.
or state of disaster.
Yes,
So what we're saying, what you're saying with this then from December 31 would be, we're going to be in a state of emergency until the end of, till the end of this year.
no, but
Okay.
they're saying if there is a state of emergency,
Right.
you can meet electronically.
Okay.
We don't have to, but you can meet
Can.
electronically. Yes.
Because that's, okay, that's, when I'm reading this, I'm reading it as if
Karen,
it's going to be. So that's what I needed to question
Okay.
the time. Yes, trustee Benzie.
yeah, the way I interpret this, Karen, if the state changes their position, we would then be allowed to meet in person. But
Yes.
if we decide and stayed meeting the way we are, if our situation changes, then we could change. We wouldn't be locked until December 31st of 21.
21.
Yes. But at this time, some communities around the state are meeting in person. You just have
Yes,
to
they
keep that
are.
number under 25.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay. Is there some way that we can address this? I know what Joe's trying to say with the state, but is there some way that we could address it like every 3 months, every month? Look at it again, as
Yeah,
opposed to,
I can keep you informed of what's occurring at the state level as well as what's happening at the Clinton County level. And that, that'll occur, like if they meet the last Tuesday of the month, they may extend it for a month or they may extend it for 2 or 3 months. I'm unsure what they'll do at this time, but I can let you all know whatever that is that they indicate. And then we could bring it back up and visit that again if you'd like to.
so that policy that you've written then would be rewritten to state that it would be every, whatever is determined, whatever this board determines that they're comfortable with. Do I understand that correctly? Because if we finalize this tonight with what this is being said, that's what I guess I'm questioning.
Yes, so there really are 2 separate issues here.
Right.
So one is the adoption of the electronic policy so that we have a policy when we need to meet electronically. The other one is me asking, what's your preference and what factor do you want us to look at to determine how we meet? Is that the Clinton County state of emergency or is it some other factor you'd like me to look at for us? So just because we passed the electronic meeting policy doesn't mean we have to meet electronically.
Okay, guys, what are your thoughts? Go ahead, Al.
I think we should go from every 2 weeks to just before our meeting. You guys let us know which way we should go, depending on what the state and the county say.
If we did it every 2 weeks, though, that's going to make it a little rough for you, isn't it, Karen?
Yeah, I do think it would be rough.
That would be, but if you do it by months.
Maybe by month, if the Clinton County county commissioners decide that it's going to be a local state of emergency through the end of April, that would give us another month, and then we would watch and see what they do at the end of April.
Okay.
So we could do it monthly.
So you're making a decision right now, whether it's
Well, that's,
how we're going to meet. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, if they continue to extend that local state of emergency, we can continue to meet electronically.
Okay.
so do you rewrite your proposal or is it to be accepted as is?
I'll make a motion to accept it as is.
Support.
Mm-mm. Can we take a vote?
Benzie,
Whoops.
Brian's got his hand up, Madam Chairman.
So this isn't on the agenda as an item for action.
Okay, you want to wait till after we, because there's a motion on the floor. It's been second.
I withdraw my motion. It's on the agenda as a discussion item.
Okay.
So what are
But we
gonna do?
didn't arrive at any kind of decision. Go ahead, Al.
So I take it we're gonna be at Zoom for the next month? Is that what I'm understanding?
That,
Yes, that's what I'm
Yes.
taking away. I don't hear any objections to, as long as there's a local state of emergency, we will remain electronic.
Okay,
and then you'll check with us every month.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Does that seem fair?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you for the discussion. Okay. Items for action. Bert, you've been patiently waiting. This is for the ZBA Board of Appeals term staggering.
Yes, I actually have something that I probably would like to do a screen share on if it's acceptable to you guys.
Sure.
I don't
Bert,
see
you
there's any
should-
objection.
Bert, you should be able to now that I made you co-host.
Okay. You may have to guide me through it. So can people see my screen right now?
No.
No.
Nope,
You
you'll have
did.
to go down to the share screen button, and then after you click that, you should be able to.
Oh, there's a share. It's a green. What does he do? Just click on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a second.
It should be at the bottom next to participants. Does it show?
It does not show.
Okay.
Bert, I'm happy to share my screen. I'm assuming you're pulling up the zoning ordinance.
Actually, I got stuff out of the Zoning Enabling Act, the Planning Act, and the zoning ordinance. So Taylor, take it back away from me for a moment, and
Okay.
so open the full screen because I'm on miniature and it won't let me move.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now give it back to me.
Okay.
Let me see if that does it. There it is.
There you go.
It's
Okay.
always nice when it works.
Is it working now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me get this up here.
There we go.
So I thought it'd be good for the board to sort of before we kind of get to the staggering and such. So I've got some things here both for the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission. So I thought maybe I may have this a little bit out of order, but I think everybody will be able to just kind of get the gist of everything. I did a little bit of highlighting here just to sort of show you the important parts, and you're certainly welcome to read it all. But so I know there was discussion as to what you should call the Zoning Board of Appeals. Well, it's clearly written right in your ordinances that the Zoning Board of Appeals is the Zoning Board of Appeals. There's no other name other than you could also call it the Board of Zoning Appeals. But other than that, that is the name of Bath Township Zoning Board of Appeals. The board has to consist of 5 members, one of whom shall be a member of the Township Planning Commission. I think you've already done that, and that's Dan Kramer.
Right.
And one who may be a member of the Township Board appointed by the board. And I think you've done that as well. Did you appoint Jason?
Yes.
Yes, so I think you've done that already. The term of the Township Board shall not exceed the member's term in office for the Township Board. So Jason, did they assign you the, when is your term end? Is it 2022?
November 20th of 2022.
Right.
Right. So that should be your end date for your term. And then it said the remaining members have to be electors of the township. And shall be appointed for terms of 3 years.
Right.
Okay. So kind of keep that 3 years in the back of your mind for a few minutes, because when we get to the Zoning Enabling Act, we're going to talk a little bit about staggering. It says the township board member can't be the chairperson, and an employee or a contractor of the township can't serve on the board. That avoids conflicts of interest. And it says the township board may appoint not more than 2 alternate members for the same term as regular members to the zoning board of appeals.
3 years.
So you can have 2 alternates. And I think you've contemplated that already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act 110. In particular, section 601 says that you have to have this information in your zoning ordinance, first of all. And number 2 says members of the zoning board of appeals shall be appointed by a majority vote of the members of legislative body serving. So that's all of you. And the zoning board of appeals shall be composed of not fewer than 5 if the local unit of government has a population of over 5,000, which where you're at. Okay. Then in a county or a township, one of the regular members of the zoning board of appeals shall be a member of the planning commission. You are by state statute by having Dan on there. And then number 5, the remaining regular members of the ZBA and any alternate members under subsection 7 shall be selected from the electors. So anybody in the township. Number 7 is the legislative body may appoint to the zoning board of appeals not more than 2 alternates. So you've got that in your ordinance correctly as well, right from state statute. Then number 10, the terms of the office, which is sort of the reason we're here, right? The terms of office for appointed members of the ZBA shall be 3 years, except for a member serving because of his or her membership on the zoning. They say zoning commission, but for planning commission. So Dan's term might be different. Whose term shall be limited to time where she is on that body. Where the members are first appointed, appointments may be for less than 3 years to provide for staggering of terms. And then a successor shall be appointed not more than 1 month after the term of the preceding member has expired. So your zoning ordinance says the terms are 3 years, but if you need to follow state statute and stagger these, just as you've been contemplating on doing. So having said that, I think I want to stop right there so we can talk a little about the zoning board of appeals members. Then maybe we can move on to the planning commission stuff that I have here so that you can know about that. Before we move on, any questions of what I've shared so far?
Doesn't appear to be. Good job.
So I kind of got some things written down here, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a motion here in a few minutes for staggering, but I have Dan Kramer as his term ending on 12/31/23. I have Jason down as his term staggered on 11/20/22. I don't know why I had 24 written on there. I did for some reason, but of 22. And then it's my understanding that you have not assigned terms for anybody else. Is that correct?
Rob,
have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Rob Brand and Daryl Kessler had terms because they weren't not up for appointment.
Correct.
And they were this year, 12/31 of anyone?
Rob is December 31 of 2021.
Mhm.
And Daryl Kessler looks to be December 31st of 2022.
Okay, so the only two that you
That's
have
right.
left to assign terms are for Paul Shaheen and Bill Sealanders, is that correct?
And Bob Taylor.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Bob Taylor.
Right.
I missed Bob. So I would suggest that you stagger, and you can do this any way you want. One of you board members, I assume, will make a motion here to stagger these, but I would suggest that you have somebody up for a term limit, if you want to call it a term limit, so that we never can be without a board.
Right.
So right now we have a person expiring in 23. We have a person expiring in 2022, and some folks expiring in 2021, right? So I would suggest maybe some folks ought to contemplate who ought to be somewhere in the middle there, so we don't end up with a situation where we could have more members expire and end up not having a board before the new person's people are reappointed.
May I ask a question, Madam Supervisor?
No, I can't even see where you're at. Yes. Oh, there you are. I said you have to stand up and wave.
Bert, do you think that it would be inappropriate to have both of the alternates, which I understand would be Bob Taylor and Rob
Horan?
Would it be inappropriate to have them term out at the same time? Or go ahead.
It's really up to the board.
Right.
But alternates, it seems to me, sometimes they come, sometimes they go, sometimes they stick around.
Exactly.
So it may not be a bad plan to have them expire annually and then just reappoint them when you're reappointing the regular member automatically. But it's really there's no rule that says you can't have them staggered differently as well.
See, I would want them staggered only from the standpoint that many times they're used, and I think you've passed this on, many times they're used as a regular committee member, only because in the absence of one of the members, it makes it difficult for them to function, so they bring an alternate in order to do that. So if you have them going out at the same time, both of them, I think that institutional knowledge goes.
That makes sense to me.
So that would be my only thought.
Yeah, alternates only can sit if one of the regular members or two of the regular members are.
Right. I have a question though. You've got like Paul Shaheen and Bill Sealander at 2023 because we're going back to 2020. Is that correct? So that we're not appointing them like February of 21. We're going back to when their position expired. Is that correct?
I would suggest that you do that.
Okay,
Again,
so they are
you'll notice the
2023.
stuff that I read here a little bit ago was silent as to that.
Okay, so that means that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are coming up in 23. Is that, did I count that right?
No.
I see Dan Kramer and Paul Shaheen for 2023 on my list.
Okay, because then, no, I mean of the appointments. So at this point, we have 4. Now, Dan, of course, of the Planning Commission. I guess I didn't count him.
Dan's term is automatic because
Right.
he's on there.
So that always is filled, no matter who fills it. It's just a matter of, so it's always full, correct? I mean, that's part of the law. So I guess what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm trying to understand, we've got Daryl Kessler at 23, Bill Solander at 23, and then Paul Shaheen in 23, and of course an alternate, Rob Taylor in 23. Does that,
Daryl is
so
20.
those need to be staggered.
I don't think,
Daryl is 2022.
yeah, Daryl's 2022.
Okay, I thought he was 23. Okay,
So the proposal that I sent to the board members earlier today was placing Bob Taylor at 2021, Bill Sealanders at 2022, and Paul Shaheen at 2023. So that was my intended motion during this time of this meeting, unless folks have another way of doing it.
and the reason for that would be what? Just to
stagger the
stagger,
terms.
pardon?
To stagger the terms.
Okay. All right, can we switch Bill and Paul so that you've got Paul in 22, if I'm understanding you, and Solander in 23?
I'd prefer to keep it as is, but I'm open to other folks' thoughts.
All right, go through your list then one more time so we've got it. So Daryl Kessler's in 2022.
Are you talking to me?
Well, you're the one that made the motion, correct?
Yes.
I'm
for
just
other
trying to
people, if I'm
clarify it.
speaking, I'm just trying to clarify if you're speaking to me.
Yes,
So what we have right now is Rob Haran, who's an alternate 2021. Daryl Kessler, who's a full member 2022. Dan Kramer, who's a full member appointed by the Planning Commission 2023. Our board member, Jason, appointed by us 2022 due to the temporary status in that board position.
right.
And then Bob Taylor, an alternate 2021, Bill Sealanders, full member 2022, Paul Shaheen, full member 2023.
I'll second that, Ryan.
So you've got two that are going out in 2021, just make sure I'm understanding. And then you have two that are going out in 2022. And you have two that go out in 2023.
3 in
Not-
2022 because of Jason.
Well, we're not, okay. If you want to count,
I do count Jason.
nope. With the board of trustee, I'm kind of, not because of you personally, but as a board of trustee, that was something. Because that one, assuming if he's okay, and wins it, he'll be there till 2024.
Well, we'd still have to reappoint him to that term.
Okay, no, I understand that. But I'm just trying to figure out what you've got going here, okay? Except your alternates are going out at the same time.
Yeah, my proposal was to do it
Yeah.
that way, just for the way that Bert described, that alternates are sort of coming and going.
That, I wish that were the case, but your alternates are used more than just alternates. All right,
But
if
they're
we
used
put,
as alternates, right?
if we could put, yes, as alternates. What about Rob Haran being 2022, along with Solander, Kessler? So there would be three of them.
Well, Rob was not one of our appointments from last week, so you would be changing an appointment that the board had already made. I'm not against that. I'm just throwing that information out there.
No, you did. You appointed your
No.
members plus your alternates.
No, Bob, Bill, and Paul and Jason are who we appointed 2 weeks ago.
Well, because the other two were up yet.
Right.
So now they are, so it doesn't make any difference in the change.
What we had agreed to do was stagger the members that we had
Correct.
just appointed, not stagger the members that we're currently on. It's a semantic issue, but that's what we had agreed to do.
Well, then Daryl Kessler would be, okay, left at 2022. All right, I don't like the alternates being the same. That's me. So you guys vote, whatever you want to do.
Well, we vote together, including you. So if there's other board members who feel the same way you do, I think this
Well, I
is
doubt seriously.
for them.
So, you know,
Let me
that's
finish, if
okay.
you don't mind. If there are other board members who feel the same way you do, I'd invite them to say something and we can change the motion here. I'm happy to change.
Nope, that's,
No, I'm asking the other board members, Madam Supervisor, please don't answer for them. Does anyone else feel the same way that the supervisor does? I'm very open to changing the motion. Okay, it doesn't sound like they are.
no, you can do. All right, so you want to vote on this before?
We
Yes.
have to, there's a motion in a second.
Yep, so the motion is what Ryan's motion was with the ones that are being appointed. Discussion, any more discussion? Apparently not. So we'll take a vote.
Rosecrans,
Yes.
El Morigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Stevens Bliss,
Yes.
Patel.
No. Okay. Okay, Bert, you're still,
Thank you. Yeah, it's important to know that the alternates do not function as regular members unless there's a person missing, and then they sit. Other than that, they're not allowed to sit.
that's correct.
And real quick, I think this is sort of a moot point at this time, but if you take your look at your Bath Township zoning ordinance for appointments for your planning commission members, it says one member of the township board shall be appointed to the planning commission. And I think at this point we have two, right? So, but you're working on that.
Yes.
The important part to know here is that you can have two on there until you figure out what you're going to do.
Okay.
And then once you figure out what you're going to do, then you can reduce down to one. So there's no, you're not doing anything wrong by having this. I just want to say that, but by doing it this way. But at some point, you're supposed to have one.
And at that point, it's up to who? Do you?
Up to
the board.
So that's a good question. So, second here. The name is, but again, the name is supposed to be Planning Commission in accordance with state statute. And right here, it says in a municipality, the chief elected official shall appoint members of the Planning Commission subject to approval by a majority vote of the members of the legislative body, which is this group here. So I think the question that I heard is who does that? And it's the chief elected official. And then it has to be sort of ratified, if you want to call it ratified, by this township.
Okay, because at this point, there are 3 openings with Planning Commission. One of them would be Jason. One is Sam Stan, who resigned, and George Baker, who he's term limited. Like
Madam Chairman, you put Joey Gutsky in there about 10 minutes ago.
So with Joel, well, that's the question. Who does Joel take the place of?
Stan.
Okay, you want to take Stan? Okay, that's
what we voted on.
And then
no, we voted for Joel to be appointed. I don't know that we voted for him to take Stan's place.
We did.
We did.
Okay. Of course. Okay.
We had the whole
Got it.
conversation back then.
Okay.
Do you not recall that?
Yes, I don't recall the total conversation having to do with taking Stan's place. No.
All
But
right. I believe
that
you were the
doesn't mean
one who
anything.
said that you would suggest that. I think it was your idea.
No, it wasn't. That would not be my idea.
Well, the video will tell the truth, but I'm pretty sure that was your suggestion.
That would not be my, that suggestion was from the chair, from the planning commission. And that's part, I'm glad you brought that up, Gail, because that brings up, you know, where it is that we're at. So
I just wish, Madam Supervisor, if you had a suggestion to do it differently, you had brought it up then and we could have discussed it.
okay, I didn't, so I guess that's my fault.
I concur.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do concur with it, and that's okay. I have
Madam
no issue with it.
Supervisor? Madam Supervisor, can you hear me?
No, I don't know who's,
It's Nick Tefelsky,
oh, yes,
planner.
Nick,
I just did want to clarify one more point too,
Okay.
regarding those vacancies. So we did resolve that. So the 2 remaining vacancies are what I think we're effectively calling holdover appointments, and that would be Jason Almarigi and George Baker. But what I wanted to clarify is that you had said that Mr. Baker had term limited out.
yes,
And I think maybe that it's not what you meant, but term limited means that he's not eligible to be on the planning commission anymore, and that's not correct. He is allowed to be reappointed if you recommend it and the board approves it.
his term,
His term
Expired.
is expired. Yeah.
right,
Okay. I just wanted
So
to make sure that we were on
term.
the
no,
same page. Term
No.
limited typically means that someone is not allowed to hold a certain position or office anymore.
Huh, okay. Nope, haven't heard it that way before. I've heard that in the legislature if they're term limited, but. Okay,
This area right here talks about your staggering, and honestly, haven't been following the planning commission with terms. So I'll let you all decide if you've done the staggering. But the last sentence
Yep.
says that a member shall hold office until his
Right.
or her successor is appointed, which is the reason that you're not doing anything wrong by having 2 board members until it sounds like Jason has somebody to replace him.
correct. That's, well, that's okay. Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Bert,
Yeah.
Yes,
so you're saying that George is still on there until he's replaced?
correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the nice perks for being on the planning commission, for all the time they have to spend. Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay,
As soon as I can understand how to take you off my screen, I will.
I can do it, I think, Bert. Hold on.
Okay.
Thanks, Bert.
there you go. We've got to look at your face anyway, Bert, instead of the writing, so that's okay.
Thank you.
All right, so our next second with our items for action would be the electronic meeting policy. I think, Karen, you've got that. There you go.
Yes, thank you. Are there any questions? Not seeing any.
Any questions on what, Karen?
The electronic
On your
meeting,
electronic,
the electronic meeting policy, excuse me.
Yes, I want to change the end of the, from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock, the end of the meeting.
that's the
Okay,
next.
That's not in this one now.
No,
Oh.
this one,
What
This
are
is-
we?
this says
This just-
electronic.
yep.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Oh, this is, okay, you're on B now. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
that's what, nope. Okay, you want to vote on it? Or do we have a motion to accept the electronic in-person public meeting?
I got a question.
Yes,
What does this mean?
Karen?
This just lays out the
I know.
guidelines in which we need to operate to make sure if we're meeting electronically, that we are including opportunities for the public to access the meeting and have an opportunity for public comment. So it basically provides the guidelines for how we handle an electronic meeting.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the electronic policy.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Vote. Go ahead, clerk.
Morigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Hewens Bliss,
Yes.
Rosecrans,
Yes.
Howe.
Yes. Now, Al, we do the Bath Charter Township Board Meeting of Order.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we change the time from 10 to 9 on our ending
So-
time.
And I think that had already been in this. So do you want to take, as long as trustee Rosecrans has already started, we're going to do it, we're going to walk through it, or? Yes, trustee Bliss. Whoops, I'm sorry, Feedwin Bliss. I was
Thank you.
corrected on that.
If trustee Rosecrans is open to it, I think we should vote on the entirety of the document and then discuss it during discussion time. But if not, I'm happy to take it.
Okay, that's fine with me. I'll withdraw my motion. Wait till you're done.
All right, motion's on the floor to accept this as written.
No, I withdrew it. I'm withdrawing it.
No,
I'll
I
make the
understand that.
motion. I'll make the motion to accept the document as written in the packet.
Any questions? Do I need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion at this point? Apparently there isn't any, so I'm going to let it go. So we'll take a vote.
Karen wants to speak.
Anne's got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Two I need.
I'm so sorry to make
No,
a
don't.
fool of myself, but thank you, Madam Supervisor. I am wondering, I'm a little confused as to when the elements will take effect. I just need clarification, please.
Nope. I don't think the rules were changed as to when. Which means that they'll take effect so that what they're saying is they're changing from supervisor to do it to superintendent. And go ahead, Ryan, as far as I know, it's next week or next meeting.
I'm sorry, Karen's right. We're not supposed to vote in the same night that it's introduced, so that's my fault. We should have just taken Al's motion because he had introduced it last week. So I'm sorry, Al, I led you astray.
I'll make your motion, Al.
I would kindly remove my motion.
My support.
I would like to make a motion that our ending time be changed from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock PM.
We're confused as to who's supporting the new motion.
Yeah, good.
Is it Joe?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Benzie,
Joe?
I seconded it.
No.
All right, I'll
we're gonna
vote
do a
for it.
roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Hewens Bliss,
Yes.
Rosecrans,
Yes.
Al Morigi,
Yes.
and Howe.
And make sure I'm understanding, this would take us till 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock.
Correct.
And I'll vote yes.
So then this should reappear in its entirety on the next
Correct.
agenda for us to actually vote. Apologies, team.
Okay. Which also means that you have another bite at the apple for any discussion that anyone may have. Okay. All right. Sanitary sewer equivalent. For
Thank you.
items for action.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Before you tonight is a resolution that would adopt the changes for the new unit factor calculations for the sewer for the businesses that you reviewed last time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I would move
Questions?
approval of the resolution as stated.
Second.
I'll say, any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Record roll call vote.
Hewens Bliss,
Yes.
Rosecrans,
Yes.
Almarigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Howe.
Yes. All right, we're on 15, which is our new business, items of introduction. Okay, Superintendent Hildebrandt, you want to go ahead and explain your COVID?
Yes, thank you, Madam Supervisor. Before you is a policy that the board requested, at which point you voted on the police having a mandatory COVID vaccination policy. I've prepared that for you. As well, I've included a voluntary COVID-19 vaccination policy. That was included from our legal counsel when we obtained the templates from them. You do not have to do anything with that if you don't choose to do anything with that. And then I've included there were questions last time as to requests for accommodation forms, I think by Mr. Trustee Benzie. There are medical exemptions from vaccination and a religious exemption from vaccination forms that have been included here that would become part of the policy if you adopted it. And I'm open for questions if any of you have questions at this time.
This is for the employees, correct?
That's correct. This is for the employees.
This is not going to include elected officials.
No, but if the board is willing to I guess, direct me in that cause, I could add that to this policy to
I
include.
thought, oh, okay, my understanding was you did add it to the policy.
No, I did not, but I said
Okay.
that if the board was supportive of that, I'd be more than willing to add that, which would include for the clerk, the treasurer, and the supervisor who are in the office regularly.
Right.
Trustee Bliss, Fewens Bliss.
I'm philosophically supportive of board members being included, but I think functionally we can't be because there's no teeth behind the policy. You can't remove board members for not getting the vaccine. So that for that reason only, I would suggest not putting us in there.
Okay.
I would agree.
See, I would disagree. Well, if she wasn't including you anyway, she was including the 3 who are here on a daily basis. So it
The
didn't
question was
include.
about board members, and I'm a board member, so I assumed it referred to.
No, well, it was termed elected officials, and then she clarified it by saying it would be the treasurer, the clerk, and the
I
supervisor.
thought she said it would be inclusive of those 3 people.
It can be either or. That's really the board's decision. What I'm
Right.
concerned for is the people really that are in the office
Correct.
commingling with our staff on a daily basis, which is usually the clerk, the treasurer, and the supervisor. The remainder of you come in at least weekly, so I would be concerned for that too, but it would be easier to have you all wear masks and social distance and continue to implement safety precautions.
I mean, do you have thoughts on what the teeth behind it would be? Would it be like a loss of access to the office, a loss of having their own office, like the tools they need to do their jobs day to day?
I guess that is something that could be considered. They would either have to continue to wear masks, social distance, and
temperature.
Temperature taking. Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
Yes,
Or
you do it every
we
day.
would have to remove access from the office. Either one of those, but in trying to work towards a common agreement, it might be just restrictions of wearing face masks when everyone else, at some point when everyone else doesn't have to.
Almarigi, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
I'm in the rare situation of agreeing with both Mr. Fewens Bliss and Mrs. Howe on this, in as much as I agree philosophically that this is important. And if we're going to vote on this and make it a requirement, I feel we should make it a requirement for ourselves as well. And so with or without teeth, I at least think we can publicly shame our colleagues if we vote yes on something and then we don't follow through ourselves.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are there any board members that don't want to get this shot for medical reasons or religious reasons?
I was just going to bring that up, so I'm glad you did.
I had sent a communication out to 17 staff members and heard back from 7 that don't want it. It's not, and I won't even say they don't want it. They don't want to be told to obtain it. They would like it to be their choice. So I don't believe it's for medical or religious reasons. It's just they would like to be able to choose whether or not they obtain it.
I think you misunderstood my question. My question was to board members.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Are there any board members that do not want to get vaccinated?
I already have my 2. So
I think it's a moot point. Sounds like we're all going to get the shot.
Okay.
All right, my question is, and you're right, Karen, with the ones that you have sent out with your employees, the ones that responded, the majority of them didn't want the shot. And their question was,
true. Yep.
And their question that, if I'm understanding, because I don't know if that all of you saw the emails, did you all, is that a yes or no? Did you read the emails from the employees?
I see heads shaking yes.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't have time to look, but what they did say had to do more with the idea of the shot, not so much, and the fact that it was stated that their employment determined that, and that's what I was, and I think I'm asking the same thing that Joe is asking, or Ryan, or one of them, with regards to.
I was just focused on the board members.
No, I understand that, but that's still the same question. The same question would go to the employees as to their employment, whether or not that would have a question.
They would probably have to, in the same respect, have to strictly adhere to safety protocols. They might have a time at which it becomes a shot more like the flu shot that's approved by the FDA.
Sure.
We could revisit this, but in the meantime, it would mean I wouldn't move to discharge anyone from employment based on that. I would work with them to try to find a reasonable accommodation for them to wear a mask and to social distance, and limit their access to other employees, but
in the public.
Yes, and the public.
All right, so what you're saying is that's not a condition of employment, but
that wouldn't be the first place I would go.
Right, okay. Does it state that in the policy?
It says, I believe on the second page,
right.
It says that to be vaccinated, the employee must have obtained an approved reasonable accommodation to be exempted. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong point.
No, there was only one page. Did I miss one?
Yeah, there's 2 pages.
Okay.
In here,
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Reasonable accommodation,
Yeah.
exemption for medical reasons or religious belief. They must submit a complete request for accommodation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says that it can be up to, it can be punishment, basically like a write-up up through termination of employment.
So they can be terminated for not.
They can be,
Okay.
but I'm just saying philosophically, that is not where I would immediately go.
But in writing, it's there.
Correct.
Okay, so if the writing were changed, that instead of stating that they would be dismissed if they didn't, could it be rewritten so that what we're saying is that if they determine that that's not what they want, that there would be working other avenues to be looked at.
If this board chose that that's what they wanted to do. I didn't really find it. I'm sorry. It's the second paragraph. Employees not in compliance with this policy will be placed on unpaid leave and subject to discipline up to and including discharge.
For not having a shot.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
Have we run this by the township attorney to see if this is legal?
This came from the township attorney.
Okay. I think there's some adjustment to the language that I would recommend, especially if what you're suggesting is that there are legitimate other accommodations that can be made for those who have what I would say sincerely held beliefs. I would take the word religious out of it. And then if there's a failure to either meet the, not getting the vaccine and not follow the accommodations, that would then lead to disciplinary action.
Okay. So it's a two-step before a termination or a firing.
Are you all
No,
on?
that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
from Jason.
are you
Is
all
that
on
a
board with that
two-step?
rewriting? I see hands.
I do too. They're all over the place.
As supervisor, I would say that it's a A or B, meaning you
Right,
either
two
get
steps.
the vaccine or you accept what are reasonable accommodations.
Right.
I think it gets a little tricky because what's reasonable for someone who works in the front office versus someone who's lawn maintenance, for example. And I don't know how to navigate that personally.
Okay. So it is a two-step. Go ahead, Ryan.
My preference would be if we pass a policy to make it the same as the police. I can't imagine us taking action for one set of employees that's different for another set. We already know that there was most of the police force had either gotten the vaccine or was going to get a vaccine, but there was some amount of police officers that did not want to do it. That was a sincerely held belief, I'm sure, on their part. So if we exempt some staff members from it because they believe one way, but not others, I understand the police are in a union and they're sort of a separate unit, but they still are township employees. And my recommendation is we treat township employees alike.
Okay.
Go ahead, Al.
I still feel the way I did about when I voted the police department's one. I think a person has their own right to get the shot. There's so much information out there right now. They say that 50% of the people aren't going to get them. And I couldn't vote for it. I'm sorry.
Any other discussion? Okay, doesn't appear to be.
So what I'm hearing is that I will bring the mandatory policy back to you unchanged. I'm seeing a head shake. I'm getting mixed direction. I'm hearing change it by Trustee Al Marigi and don't change it by Trustee Fewens Bliss. So I'm in a pickle.
Let's unpickle it. All right. If I'm understanding what's being said, correct me if I'm wrong, you're right. There are two different theories here, but they're actually very similar to each other. In the police department, is that mandated for employment?
As it's written, you adopted it as it's written here in front of you today.
No, for the police department.
It's as it's written. So will be placed on unpaid leave and subject to discipline up to and including discharge. That's how it's applied to the police department currently. That's how you adapted it.
And what Ryan is saying, if I'm understanding, is that you don't treat them differently. So you're going to terminate employment at this end and employment with law enforcement.
Yep, he's saying
because they are employees of
Yep.
Bath Township.
And Trustee Almarigi saying,
Well, can I reiterate what I voted yes on the police because of the nature of the work that they do, right? The majority of the police officers are by necessity interacting with people, and oftentimes these are vulnerable populations. And so for the sake of protecting them and the very important work that they do, serving our community in terms of safety and delivering service, as well as protecting those individuals that they come into contact with, I thought it was important for us to have that policy. If what I'm hearing Karen say is that there are reasonable accommodations that can be made for some employees to protect themselves as well as the community, and that's an option, then I'd like to exercise that option because while they're all employees of the township, they serve different roles and they have different exposure risks to themselves and others than the police department.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I appreciate that nuance. I think there's nuance within the employee base for the rest of the township as well. So a great example is those who work in the senior center versus those, to your point earlier about lawn maintenance. You know, if we want to bucket out by types of work, I think that could be a way to look at it too. But that feels like a lot of work and nuance, but maybe that's what work and nuance we need.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, what we do for one group of employees, we should try to be consistent and do that for all of our employees.
Mm-hmm.
They should all have to follow somewhat the same rules. So whatever we did for our police department, we should probably do for the rest of our employees if we're going to do something.
Okay. For me personally, I can appreciate what you're saying. Law enforcement is a totally different ballgame as opposed to the women sitting in the front.
I just don't.
But they are treated differently, no matter how you look at it. Whether you look at it for their job or whether you look at it from an employee.
Position of having to answer the questions on double standards for this group and double standards for that group. I want to treat everybody the same.
But they aren't the same.
That's
one reason that I personally chose the field that I chose as opposed to another field was money. If you're going to go to work, you might as well get paid for it. And that's why you have a male-oriented field. So there is a difference. No matter how you look at it, there is a difference. There's always going to be a difference. I wish we could say they're all the same across the board, but they're not. I'm afraid I'm in the camp with Al when it comes to people do have, and the people who answered, the employees who answered, for whatever reason, didn't want to have the shot. So termination is a little strong for me for not obtaining a shot. And I think that's part of what we're trying to figure out here is how to do this. That's why you have two separate ideas. So you have to decide which one you're going to fall on. And I think you're right, Superintendent, to bring it back. And hopefully that gives you 2 weeks to think about it and then make the determination. But make sure it's being read again in light of what we've discussed now. Does that make sense?
What I'm hearing is that I will bring it back unchanged.
Correct. That's what I understand. Is that what?
Okay. I'm hearing now two people say that you treat them all the same.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, you have two that's saying that you do treat them the same. So if you're going to do it for law enforcement, you should be doing it for everybody.
Okay.
Then you have the remainder one who's not really responding or Frale and I were doing. It's a little odd. On somewhat the same page of being able to say there needs to be something separate. There needs to be terminating someone's employment because of this makes it a little tough, especially when the majority of your employees aren't in favor of it. So it needs to be re-examined, I think. Go ahead, Ryan. That's very good. Just leave it there.
And I'm wondering, when you had an engagement with the attorneys on putting this together, did they say anything about one group versus another? Like, would this give police officers who felt like they were terminated because they weren't going to get it some sort of viable path forward to say I was treated separately?
No, it was more along the lines of just employment law in general, and that employees, if we made it mandatory, would be covered under workers' compensation. But of course, they said that you can release people from employment for this, but there will be, they didn't say here or where, but there will be challenges to this in the courts.
Right.
Well, I would be interested in hearing if they thought there was a difference if we were using different policies for different groups, because if they think that is even more precarious, then I think that tells us what we should or should not do.
Okay,
I agree.
I can do that.
I think the policy is an important piece, but you need to go away from this, Trustee Feedwood Bliss, understanding that law enforcement is different. You're mandated to take CPR, you're mandated to do, there's a lot of things that you're mandated to do that nobody else is mandated to do for your job. We're mandated to qualify, you're mandated to do, lots of other things that other employees are not mandated to do. So that's my only statement with that, is that I don't know that you can say if law enforcement's mandated at one point, employees aren't, that shouldn't be. It has to be fair, that everybody's on the same. If that were the same case, trust me, you would not have the training that you're mandated to take in order to serve the public. So that's, I'm off.
I'm interested what the township attorneys have to say about it, that's all.
Mm-hmm. Well, he already has said it, apparently.
No, they haven't. That's what Karen
Oh,
said.
I thought she said she already took it.
We had not differentiated in terms of
Okay.
the different groups of employees, like police versus office employees. We had not
Okay.
asked for a differentiation. So I
It
will,
was just across the board.
yes, and I will see
Okay.
if a differentiation exists. And if it does not exist, I will bring back to you a policy that is like what you have tonight.
No, I think that seems fair. What do you all, I think they all do. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we were going to have the board of review minutes, I think, for discussion. Was that correct? You moved it from the consent agenda.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
My understanding based on email communications today is that the Board of Review has not reviewed these minutes yet. And so
Mhm.
I would prefer to, if they're going to be presented before us, that they first review them and make any adjustments that are made. The second part is these traditionally have not been put before us. If I understand, I'm not sure why. I think my guess is that they meet once a year, and so they won't review until next year. I might be wrong with that.
Oh, there's a hand waving. I saw it this time.
Thank you. Trustee Almarigi, the reason that they haven't in the past, to my understanding, is that statute only requires the assessor to place them on file with the clerk. It doesn't give an explanation as to how that happens. So in the past, it has been that she transmits them to the clerk and they're placed on file. We'll call it, she files them.
So are there other boards that also are allowed to, other committees that are allowed not to have them? Because you see, I'm the one who requested that they be put on and asked for a draft. We vote on a draft minutes all the time. And that was something that didn't, I mean, for me, you're right, it was in the consent agenda. It's probably the wrong place it should have been. It should have been whether you accept or reject a draft. And as for changes in it, Beth was gone. She's our assessor, Ms. Botke. And I had emailed her that many times, and it was not addressed as being an issue until today. So for whatever that's worth. No, I think Ryan has his hand up for it.
You said that we vote on draft minutes all the time, and I thought we were only voting on minutes that had gone through and been approved by their respective committees. Is that not the case?
That's a very good question. Our board meetings are always draft minutes until they're accepted.
Well,
once they're accepted, it becomes.
We're the entity that approves that. I meant committee minutes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, our committees, I have no idea what our committees do.
It's my understanding that committees approve them themselves and then pass them up to us.
That is correct.
Okay. So what we're saying here is you don't have to wait a year for those minutes. They had been, I personally, because I'm the secretary that's there, I personally showed the chair, and the chair corrected my names for being incorrect. And the remainder of it he thought was okay. Beth also did the same, Ms. Botke also did the same thing. Then today, I'm sent an email that has all these changes in it. So I'm not sure what it is that we're doing. All I do know is that when those minutes come about, if they, now this is a good question. If those minutes are sent to our board members, there are 3 of them, and they okay them, does that mean that they've been okayed by the committee and they can come in as a draft? Okay, Jason, you're shaking no. What would be how would you do this? You don't want any minutes for your board to review, correct?
I would imagine that if there's going to be a formal approval of the minutes, that you'd want a quorum and a vote.
That is a quorum.
And so, and then if that's a quorum, does it meet the Open Meetings Act? Apparently there was need for discussion.
Okay, no.
So there's the process piece there. The second question I have is, I mean, looking at the meeting minutes, these aren't terribly useful for me in terms of having a better understanding of what was decided or what was done during the meeting. So if they're not useful, why are we reviewing them?
The usefulness is that at an organizational meeting, they determine who's the chair, who's the vice chair, who then, although it's determined who's the secretary. I'm not sure legislatively in the law if that's correct, but they do determine who's, so yes, they are very useful, and they are, and if you find that unacceptable because it doesn't fit what you're looking for, I can't help that. Like that I don't know. Go ahead, Ryan.
I think that they would be useful whether they were on file or useful whether they were in our packet. As long as we have access to them is what I would care about. Okay. My question though is, it appears like no decision making happened at the meeting. There's no motions, there's no votes. And I've never been to one of these, so that's the way it runs. That's the way it runs. I'm just trying to understand. There's no actions taken here.
Those actions are, that's the way that those minutes had been sent to me. And I filled in who was who. We have never done board of review minutes before, but that doesn't mean that's always been correct. They are a committee. We do elect them. You all did it. You sent all 5 of them to the board. So when it comes to their minutes, whether you understand them or like the format, we can certainly change the format. You know, that's entirely up to you. But no, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. So that's not the structure that the board of review uses. There's not motions and seconds and voting.
Nope.
Okay.
They just They just vote and say, well, everybody, it's like anything else, except for here. When you say, okay, this is going to be the chair, Jeff Seeley is going to be the chair. Okay. That's how it's done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've been to 2 or 3 times, and I don't see any use for us going over their minutes.
Are minutes supposed to be use?
They're posted,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay. So what other committee, can any committee do that?
Well, it'd save
No,
us a lot
I'm
of
asking,
time if
I
we
don't
didn't
know.
have these. It'd save me a lot of reading time if I didn't have all these minutes, but some of this stuff is pertinent to the township. As
And your
far
taxes
as
are not?
the things that we
Okay.
that we need to do, the stuff we have to buy. But as far as somebody getting their taxes raised, I can't.
No.
It's
Okay.
important.
No,
Or
let me
lower.
clarify. That was not whether your taxes are being raised or not. I have the minutes for the
There's
8th and
nothing in
9th.
the minutes.
This is organizational. This is how that committee is organized. That's all that is. Okay,
I think it was been good the way it's been.
of course. Go ahead. Yes, Ryan.
I wonder if the way to split this is to do some sort of memo from the chair that tells us what happened rather than having formalized minutes that have to go through the approval process. Then we could at least see who was made chair and who's placed where, and then we at least have the information if we want it or not. But it doesn't have to come to us in draft format. We don't have to wait a year for them to approve it. So we're at least getting the information and respecting the structure that we're using in the other committees.
All right, if I'm understanding, what you're looking for is a memo from the chair stating how these appointments were made.
No, just stating the things that the minutes, I mean, I don't know if you're planning on sending the minutes of the actual Board of Review session to us as well, but these,
No.
these just tell us who was made chair, who's the
Right.
secretary,
It's an
that all could be
organizational.
put in a memo format to say, FYI, this happened. Then we
Okay.
wouldn't be breaking the protocol with committees voting on their own minutes before they come to us.
So it's the form, you're looking for a written piece instead of
I mean, to
saying who the
be
chair is. You want a sentence that tells who the chair is, correct?
to be very honest, I didn't mind the old structure either. So this isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a
Okay.
way to find some middle ground in between what we're talking about here. Getting the information to the board, which I hear you,
Right,
Madam
it's a
Supervisor,
committee.
think is important. And then not having to wait a year or not doing it differently than we do it to other committees, which is what I'm hearing some other board members. So I'm just throwing out, is a compromise that we could get the information, but not in minutes form. Would that suffice?
I don't know, would it suffice? Would you rather have it in a memo form? So the form makes a difference? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because minutes don't come to us unless they've been approved by their own committee. So this would be a deviation from that. So in that sense, I think the form matters.
Well, that certainly can be changed very quickly. Okay. So what you're looking at is to make sure that our organizational meeting approves those minutes. Correct?
If we're to treat it like
Okay.
every other committee, then yes,
Okay.
they approve their
Okay.
minutes before they come to us. Otherwise, we would file them and we wouldn't know if that's what had happened, right? That they don't agree to that.
Right, because they're filed with the clerk, approved or not approved, they're filed with the clerk as an organizational piece. So,
Right, that's separate from the board.
well, no, it's not approved. So
Well, it is separate from the board because it doesn't come to the board. So if you're going to invite me into it, that means
Okay.
I'm going to review it. I'm going to pick it apart. I'm going to ask questions just like you do with these issues as well.
Sure,
If it doesn't come to me, I'm not going to do that.
All right. So the minutes that I give to the clerk or for the organizational, because Beth has the minutes, I have a copy of that. So the organizational committee or how it's organized will go to the clerk after it's approved. Because you can't have two. Now this is where we'll have two. Okay, we'll have one approved and one not approved. So if I'm understanding, it needs to be approved and then it will be submitted to the clerk as an approved set and submitted to you as an approved minute, whatever form. Is that right?
Oh,
Just a minute.
I don't know what the process is. I thought you were telling me what the process was.
No, yes, you were telling me that you needed to have them approved. And I'm saying it goes to the clerk, not approved. So.
To be honest,
If-
I don't actually care enough about this issue.
I
So
know,
I don't want you to change things because of what I'm describing here. And I don't want it to be presented as if this is my issue. It's not.
No, it's not
I
your
was
issue.
trying to find a compromise, but if that
And
doesn't.
I'm trying to give to the board, the committees. Gal, go ahead.
Does any other township or any other organization
You know,
like us have it sent to them?
would you be more comfortable if I asked that question? I do have copies of what's printed for notification.
No, I'm not. I
But
want to know
you're
what.
looking for the actual minutes. Okay,
Yes, I want to know if Okemos, DeWitt, Langsberg, it's sent to them, or if it's
Okay.
just posted to the clerk.
okay. Nope, I think that's a fair question. Langsberg? Okay. Got it.
I can give you some more if you want them.
Go ahead. Whatever you think would be comfortable.
Stockbridge,
Okay.
Ovid, Elsie.
You want to know
Cronin.
all of these?
No, not really. I just want to know a few around us. But
Well,
I
that's what I-
wanted to know
okay.
if you wanted more.
Well, no, whatever you are asking for, I will check.
Because I can't imagine us doing anything different than any other township does.
We do a lot of things different than other townships because we're Bath Charter Township. Our charter is different than what it would be, but that's okay. I'll ask. Stockbridge, Okemos, DeWitt, Langsberg. Is there some other one that you want?
We add Woodhull.
It's what?
Woodhull.
Yeah,
Woodhull,
Woodhull,
which is where?
just a little ways from here.
Woodhull,
Yes,
who actually has,
Woodhull Township.
okay. Never heard of it, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to learn. Woodhull, okay. Do you have something else, Jason? Another?
No, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Okay, Woodhull. All right. So I have, well, you want the city of DeWitt or the township of DeWitt or both?
Both.
Okay,
How about Eureka?
we can be real cute about it. I'll call them. Doesn't make any difference
Okay.
to me. Is there anything else? You sure you don't want me to go to UP? Go ahead, Ryan.
If you would like to.
Hey, whatever you want. I'm here to serve. Isn't that what we've said? Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm curious about something you just said, that our charter calls us to do things differently than other charters. I've actually never heard that before. Do you have some
No.
examples of that?
No, I didn't say our charters are different. Our townships would be different, whether it is a
No,
common
you
law
said,
township.
We're Bath Charter Township and our
Yes.
charters are different is what you said. So having served on the board before, I had never heard where a charter of one would do something that a charter of
No,
another.
they all, well, depends. It depends on what they do to organize. A charter, as you know, we have 3 in this county. And they're along the 69 corridor. The others are common law.
Yeah, I know the
townships.
difference between common law and charter. I'm just trying to unpack. Maybe you missed it.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. You're saying you heard me say that our charter is different from somebody else's charter.
Right, and
They
that
all
means
have to follow.
different.
We're different from how we organize. everybody, all the charters fall under the charter law of 1947. You all
Right.
fall under that. How you organize is different. So in other words, I don't know if DeWitt has, well, I don't know if DeWitt has policies like we have policies. I don't know if Watertown has the same kind of policies that we have.
Right,
I have
but
no
that's
idea.
not a function of coming from the charter is what I was trying to clarify.
Coming from the charter. The charter allows you to organize any way that you deem necessary.
No, I'm familiar.
If
I
you
think
don't
I
org-
understand.
okay.
I'm sorry. I just misunderstood you. I thought you were saying because our charters are different, that means that we are structured differently.
No,
We do
all of
things-
us fall under the same charter law. How we organize is different.
That was my understanding too. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Joe, go ahead. Are we done with this by any chance? Are we ready to move on? All right, I have my list. I have my homework, what I need to do. And that's for the discussion. Now, you want this brought back next meeting, I'm
Yeah.
assuming? Okay. Nope. Are we ready to go? Under new business, we have items for action. We don't have any. So we have the superintendent. Sorry, you have to wait so long, Karen, but here you go.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. The first area that I wanted to touch on was in regards to the marijuana ordinances that many of you probably expected to see tonight, and they were not on the agenda. After discussion with Bert Gale, who we have with us tonight, and legal counsel, I found that adopting the ordinances would have allowed any business to walk in and turn in an application to me for a permit. And because we have the planning commission still working on that competitive process, I felt it very critical to pump the brakes, if you will, because the minute an application and a check are turned in, it would start the clock ticking on the process to review that application. And if our intent was to be competitive, then we need to be competitive and more than just saying we're competitive, but being able to open a submission window, if that's what the planning commission submits to the board of trustees and you all agree with. So it was very important to me that the planning commission have time to work, and that with the township having more probably interest in license than we have permits available, we're going to be in a situation where being competitive and competitively reviewing those is going to be very critical. So once the planning commission is done with their work, those ordinances will come back to you again. So they're not off the table very long, just until the planning commission forwards a process to you as the board and you agree with it, then we'll have reading of those ordinances again. So any questions? Trustee Fewens-Bliss?
So I don't pretend to that I'm speaking on behalf of the planning commission. So let me say that first. And
Sure.
Jason is here, and John is here, and Bert is here, and Joe was at this last meeting. So they could certainly weigh in on this. But my takeaway from our conversation that we had last week was that the planning commission felt like the items that were articulated in the competitiveness section of the ordinance was forcing us to include those pieces in the application process. And from what I heard, and I certainly felt it myself, we would not maybe have selected those to be part of the process if they weren't outlined in the ordinance. If we're pumping the brakes on the ordinance, might this be a chance for us to revisit that competitive section at the planning commission? I don't want to slow things down, but if we're already slowed down, it just seemed like there were criteria that were in the spirit and the letter of the ordinance. So you either can do it or you won't get a license. And we were trying to grade people competitively on if you can do it or not do it, when at the end of the day, the ordinance says you have to do it. So we shouldn't be grading you on if you aren't able to do something that the ordinance says you have to do, because ultimately you have to do it.
Correct.
So is that an option? Should we do that? I mean, looking for feedback from you and others.
Yes, so it would have been my preference to adopt the ordinances and then possibly refine language, but you are correct in pumping the brakes. This allows the planning commission to, if it feels necessary, to make language changes
to the ordinances that could be sent up to the board? Jason Almarigi?
Just out of curiosity, wouldn't it take a board vote to stop a second reading of an ordinance that had already gone through first reading?
We have had ordinances in the past that were not taken for second reading and adoption.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, I have a different impression from Few and Bliss's impression from that meeting.
Okay.
I thought we had a pretty productive discussion. We were on the same page that there were more important criteria and lesser important criteria. And what we had done was we weighted those criteria differently based on the importance that we felt. And so I have some concern about pumping the brakes on something that's the Planning Commission has been working on for 2 years.
I agree.
I feel like we are now second guessing the work of these members.
And I understand that. And my only concern is that I could not legally reject an application. So after we passed, if we were to have passed a second reading and adoption, somebody could have walked through the door the next day and bypassed a competitive process and put in an application, and I would have had to, in a sense, review it.
I guess I'm confused by that requirement, because if you look at the ordinances of neighboring communities, the language related to what the application process is not specified in the ordinance. Usually the language is that the clerk will manage the process, and then there is not a specified application due date, which is where I think we landed as the Planning Commission.
But it also doesn't say someone couldn't walk in and hand me one. That's the thing.
You've finished? Okay, Joe.
Joe has his hand up.
I know. Go ahead, Joe.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay. We only have one license available. And so if somebody walked in, and I don't have Karen's job, and offered me an application after I approved the second reading, I would just say I don't have a license available at this time. Would you like me to have your email address and let you know when we open up the window? So I'd like you to ask our attorneys if that would be an okay position for us to take.
The attorney said that if someone walked in and handed me an application, I would have to take the application and the clock would start ticking for the time to review it in.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
I have no problem with sending this back to the Planning Commission so they can finish this up.
What are you looking for them to finish?
They're working on a competitive review.
So the review is what they need to.
And process.
Okay.
Trustee Fewens-Bliss.
I know it takes 30 days post second reading for an ordinance to take effect. Was your thought or Bert's thought that we wouldn't be able to finish it within that 30-day window?
Bert, would you like to speak?
Yeah, sure. No, I think that you guys absolutely can finish it pretty quickly. I don't think you have that much left to do. But what Karen is saying is absolutely true. So if you got one license, I'll make it even more complicated. I'm sorry, I'm going to do it. I can't help myself, right? So I'll make it more complicated. Let's say 4 people walk through the door with applications. Yes. Who are you going to pick? You don't have any way to choose right now until you get this competitive stuff ready to go and have it roll out with the ordinance.
Go ahead, Jason.
So if I remember correctly, and maybe Nick can step in and I verify this, I thought we made a vote as to the scoring of the criteria. And so what we did not land on was what would be an application due date. And I thought that would be an internal decision. that would be relevant to when this ordinance got approved.
Go ahead, Nick.
Nick there? Oh, there he is.
He
As
unmuted.
it's in the left-hand corner
Thank you.
on my
Real
screen.
quick. Okay, so
There it is.
again, I'll try to speak carefully because I don't want to speak on behalf of the Planning Commission. Obviously, I'm just the staff to the Planning Commission. But what I recall in terms of the actual competitive process and the weighting of those criteria is that those criteria were looked at one by one and categorized as either high, medium, or low priority. I don't know that we determined what a weight for each of those would be. So I know that that's something that I believe will be discussed at our Planning Commission meeting next week. Another thing that I do recall having been brought up, and I may be misremembering it, but regardless, I think it's a good idea. We had talked about adding language stating that applications would not be considered received until the closing date of the application deadline. And that, I think, is sort of the piece that's missing here. And that will allow us to set that time frame and ensure that, there is an appropriate window in that applications would come in during that window. Does that answer that question, Jason? At least.
Yeah, I would just say that mathematically, as long as you're consistent with whatever points you're assigning to low, medium, high, it doesn't make a difference what the points are. And so I see that as a non-issue. And then in terms of the closing dates, again, I'm assuming that's this can be handled by internal staff related to when this ordinance is officially adopted and an internal procedure created.
It was my understanding that the Planning Commission was going to make a recommendation to this board for a competitive process. So I was at your last meeting and I think you guys did fantastic work, but I in no way felt like that was coming to this board right now, maybe after your next meeting, but I did not get that feeling, and maybe I misunderstood.
I remember explicitly being asked to bring the criteria back to the next Planning Commission meeting. So I'm under that same impression that a sort of final decision was made, or excuse me, that it was not made.
I want nothing more, I can assure all of you, to make sure that the Planning Commission has time to do its work, the board has time to do its work, and that we treat applicants fairly. That's what I understood from this board was important to you, is that we had a competitive review process and that we treated applicants fairly. That's what I'm trying to undertake.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say Bert, because I have a question.
Yeah, have Joe go. He's a board member.
Okay. All right, Joe, you're the board member.
But we need to get this back to the Planning Commission so they can finish it up. I agree with Bert. They're not that far away from being done.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bert.
I'm not quite sure how to express this, but please don't, and I'm talking to our Planning Commission people that are on this board, please don't think that that my thought process, at least, and I can't speak for Nick or Karen, but my thought process has never been that you guys aren't doing good work and you're not doing it in a timely manner. That's not it at all. We just don't want to roll this out without being able to meet the state statute on this. And the state statute does say you got to have a competitive way in which to award your license if you're going to limit licenses in your community.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the question for Bert. And this is kind of off. It's still on, but a little off. With Jason and Ryan on the Planning Commission, and they're talking and they're going to be working on this competitive review. This is a legal question. Can they vote?
Yes, you talking about at the Planning Commission level?
No, voting with the Board of Trustees. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I needed to know.
Yep.
Was whether or not they could legally still vote, even though they're still working on this competitive review with Planning Commission.
they can.
Thank you. I knew you would know the answer.
And it's very possible that at the next planning commission meeting that this is wrapped up and ready to come to the board, that this competitive review process and the second reading and adoption of the bill or the ordinance, excuse me, can come to you at the same time. So
Okay.
this wasn't to be indefinite. It was to just let the planning commission do its work. If that happens in the next week, I'm happy to bring second reading and adoption of the ordinances back to you all. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to note that the senior services hiring for a programs and services coordinator has received 5 applications total.
Good.
There were only 2 at this time that are qualified, and one of those people withdrew from consideration. The posting runs through the end of this week. I will have to determine if I may need to extend that, but I can make that decision after the close of the posting. Then I will move on to posting for an assistant cook. And as we create our COVID standard operating procedures, this person can join us for some hands-on training and learning and getting familiar in their position. The road committee will be meeting with the Clinton County Road Commission this on this year's projects. That's going to occur Thursday at 8:45 a.m. There will most likely be another meeting scheduled sometime after that as the prices come in and we make a final determination of our projects to forward to the Board of Trustees. The Broadband Task Force is also meeting this week, 6 p.m. Thursday. I'm excited for that work. And that's all I have tonight for my superintendent's report, unless you have additional questions.
It doesn't appear. Looks like it's clear. All right, we have public comments.
If anyone would like to make a public statement at this time, you can do so by raising your physical hand, raising your Zoom hand, or dialing *9. Fred, go ahead.
Hey, can you turn on my video?
Yes.
Great. I like to see myself as well as I like to hear myself. So, hey, I just want to, the first thing I want to say to everybody is, I think it would be fantastic if we could swap the public comments. I mean, no offense, you guys are awesome and everything, but I've sat here for like 2.5 hours so I can make my public comments, which aren't necessarily about agenda items, and that is what the public comment number 1 is. So I think if we had the open public comment come earlier, that would be fantastic for some people. I don't know. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I bailed. Maybe it was 4 weeks ago. Frankly, I was down south, but I bailed on it because I just couldn't stand it any longer. And no offense, but at the same time, I just want to make that mention. I would also like to say that yes, there is now a broadband task force. They're meeting this week. That is some awesome stuff. I think we can maybe make some headway for our community and broadband and move forward. And that's just really exciting stuff to see that put together. Maria, I think you had a big part in that. That's fantastic stuff. The next thing I want to make a big note here of just getting on with business. It's good to see things starting to work. It was really clumsy at first, in my opinion. And again, I'm just a resident. One of 2,000 something people, so my opinion doesn't mean much, but I'm looking at it, it was just so clumsy at first, and tonight's a bit clumsy too, but way better, and it's good to see things moving forward. I think working on procedure would be a kind of a good thing, so we're not always questioning what we should do, when we should do, so on and so forth. Maybe we could have gotten to this point a half hour ago. I don't know. Again, just making I don't know, a bit of a negative comment, I guess. Another thing I guess I want to discuss here is this whole marijuana topic. It's interesting to me, and I've thought a lot about it over the last several months. I also want to make mention that my business, I have a partner as well, but Pro Metal is Professional Metalworks is looking to move. We've been looking to move for a couple of years now, and we're probably out of there within a year or so. So that make a difference to that. And frankly, I want to make a mention that once we relocate and I don't have a business as well as a residence in Bath, I may look to get more involved in Bath politics, maybe even run for a position, but I don't like the conflict of interest type thing going on if I were to own a business in Bath and also be on a board or something to that effect. I don't know. But back to the whole marijuana thing, it's interesting to think about this whole thing because we are a really unique community, I think. I grew up K through 12 in East Lansing, moved to Bath in 2002, moved again to another place in Bath, but nonetheless, Bath is a pretty neat place. I've been visiting Bath since I was a kid. I used to ride my dirt bike in Pregoris Park and met some pretty cool Bath people when I did that. But nonetheless, it's a unique community that in some cases it's like country living with the reach of city amenities because everything is awfully close to us. It's so close to us that there's no sense in building a bunch of amenities close to us as far as large businesses and whatnot. And I also want to make mention that my business partner and I approached Bath, 3 to 4 years ago, trying to see what we could do to see what Bath would do to maybe try to help our growing business to expand and whatnot. And we were pretty much met with deer in the headlights. It was nothing. And other townships that we've looked at were immediately coming forward with tax abatements and all kinds of stuff trying to attract us there because what we ended up doing was leasing another property in Perry. So we've kind of split our shop now, but we're looking to get under one roof and we're going to do that here in the next year or so. And our building is going to become available as well. So maybe that'll end up being a giant marijuana farm. I don't know. But I guess I want to make some mention about us being kind of unique and it's kind of, what do we want as a township? I follow the township Facebook page sometimes because there's some pretty interesting stuff on there. Some people don't want to grow. They like their low taxes. I think I do too, but I'd kind of like some city trash removal and some stinking internet for crying out loud. But nonetheless, we don't know what we want to do, but I kind of think these marijuana guys, have you guys seen these dispensaries? Have you seen the Pleasantries in East Lansing or the Sky Mint in East Lansing? These are nice buildings. This is class stuff. These are big boys. I actually sold a building in East Lansing to a neighbor of mine. But prior to that, I had the marijuana guys coming after me like crazy because I was in the building that I happened to own was in this little district or this area that was okay for growers or testers or dispensaries. And the marijuana guys were coming at me with some crazy money. My neighbor ended up, we kind of met in the middle and took care of that. But these guys got money. They're not fussing around. This isn't your small-time drug dealer or anything to that effect. These are guys with millions of bucks trying to build buildings. So I guess kind of my thoughts is, why are we being so restrictive to having the pot growers come in? This stuff is legal now. It may not be federally legal, but it's certainly on its way. This stuff's been around since the 60s. I'm pretty sure in general, I have it on super duper secret authority that Bath Township's been growing a lot of weed for a long time. So I don't know that it's a bad idea to open this up and let this be something that we can bring in some revenue with so that we can do some better stuff and have some better taxes without all the traffic and without all the crap. I look at it and I say to myself, should we just embrace this? And why are we limiting, these licenses to one or two? Why not open this up? I mean, if I would much prefer a marijuana growing operation near me than I would a distillery or a bar. I personally have experience with alcohol and I have personal experience with marijuana, and by golly, I'll choose the marijuana, especially when it comes back to my family history, so on and so forth. So I think most of us probably have some alcoholics in our family at one point or another, and marijuana doesn't seem to have that effect. It's much softer of a drug in my opinion. So if these, basically, should we embrace this as a township? I don't know, and there may be some other things going on that I don't know, and I know there's restrictions in other townships and so on and so forth. But why wouldn't we possibly consider opening the floodgates and say, hey, if you've got the money and you're going to build a nice building and you're going to do a decent deal for us, come the heck on in. Because
Fred, your 3 minutes. It's okay. Can you cut it a little shorter?
I will. I'm so close to being done. Thanks,
Okay.
Ray.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm super close. So my last thing I want to say is, what if these things go bust? What if the market gets saturated, or so we're left with a bunch of really nice buildings? It's not a bad thing. So I don't know. That's all I want to say. Everybody, have a great week, and thank you for letting me speak. And thanks to all of you for what you do. It's nice to see some coordinations. Thank you very much. I'm out.
Thanks, Fred. All right. Is there anyone else? Taylor?
There's a phone number ending in 040. You can go ahead and dial *6 to unmute.
Hello, Will Tyler White. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
2 things. Once again, there were no appointments to the Downtown Development Authority, which is pretty disappointing here. It's preventing the citizens from taking part in the government and spending their tax dollars that have already been approved for use to improve the streets and the sidewalks and the parks. We need to get that going. So I'd appreciate any movement on appointments to the DDA. I know there's a lot of available qualified people, so please pay attention to that. The second item was on the agenda, proposed in the proposed new meeting structure. I didn't see any place for correspondence. There used to be a place for correspondence in the agenda where you could put the official notices from the state and the county and any meaningful citizen or letters that are addressed to the board. Otherwise, I don't know how the rest of the board will see all those communications. That used to be on the agenda years ago, and I think the public, and at least I know I would like to see any official correspondence going to the township in the meeting packet. So that's my 2 comments tonight, and thank you for having a very in-depth conversation about all the subjects. And thank you for listening. Bye.
Okay, Will, thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a public statement at this time? I do not see anyone additional.
Okay. Doesn't look like, I can't see, but it doesn't appear that anyone's trying. Okay, so 17 is the board member comments. Ryan, you want to start us out?
Yes, thank you. I listened closely to the supervisor's statement at the beginning of the meeting. I feel really bad that the supervisor thinks the pushback she's felt has been personal. Speaking for myself, it's never been personal, but I'm sure my frustration in the meetings has been probably clear. The supervisor certainly was elected by the public. She was elected to do a specific job. This is where you all have felt my frustration come in. There seems to be a lack of understanding of how to do simple things like making a motion or calling for a vote, getting simple things like board member names wrong. It's been almost impossible for us as a body to do anything more complex than that at this point. Even tonight, the supervisor recommended a new planning commissioner, something that only she can do, and then voted against him when we voted on it. Obviously, that's her right, but it certainly confused me. Did she want all of us to vote down that person? Why bring him up if he wasn't a qualified person? Listen, I know Robert's Rules of Order is clunky and formal, but if I ran for a job, I would be sure on day one that I could do that job. From the beginning of the term and extending through tonight, the supervisor has shown an inability to run these meetings. I'm a person who makes a lot of mistakes daily, so I offer a lot of grace, but instead of an oops, my bad mentality, we get argument and pushback, passive aggressiveness, and tiny barbs sent our way. So it's particularly frustrating to get a soliloquy at the beginning of the meeting that was not on the agenda about how we're trying to steal the supervisor's power. To be clear, the supervisor has removed the management of the agenda from Karen unilaterally, a process that had no identified problems, and then infused it with numerous problems. The board has given the supervisor multiple meetings to figure that out, and it still seems to be a struggle. We're a multi-million-dollar operation with a professional staff. We need to get on with the business of the township instead of fixing problems that don't exist. The board has decision-making authority, not any one person. I would argue that in the marketplace of ideas, the supervisor has done a poor job in making the sell for her ideas, rather than a coup is afoot from the rest of the board. I've said this in the past, and I can only compare to how others have done this job or how I would go about it. But if 5 board members on the board had decades of experience sitting on the Bath Township Board of Trustees, experience like we have on this board, I might listen to what other folks are saying about how we work, how we do things, how things are supposed to operate. We can always change things and should change things to make them better. But the supervisor has failed to make the argument that there is something to be improved. We continue to try to change things for the sake of changing things. As a board member who is also duly elected by the public, I don't want to spend my time arguing about committee names and debating rules and not communicating with each other. It's not a good use of my personal time, and I'd argue it's a horrible use of taxpayer money. So far since November, we've received complaints from the public, complaints from committees, formal complaints from staff members about the supervisor's behavior. In my job, I'd be fired if that was the case. That's not how we work here, so it's not what's happening. But I'd argue that the problem isn't that the supervisor is not our choice for the role, and the real problem is simply an inability to do the job, to know the role, to be respectful, to not condescend to other board members, to apply leadership appropriately, to not manipulate our words, to treat peers and staff in a professional manner. It wasn't my intent tonight to air these grievances, but I felt that the supervisor's opening comments deserved a rebuttal. A lot can be said of language, and I found it telling that the supervisor uses language that refers to you all, your decision, it's up to you when discussing items in front of the board. I would argue the better terms of language we should be using is we and us and our decision. It's up to us. Since we're all in this together, we are not separate from her. At my job, we have a saying that we use pretty regularly: if you want better, do better. So that would be my advice to the supervisor. And I stand ready to work with the supervisor and anyone else in that spirit.
Okay, who's next? Joe?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in tonight. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. Al, go ahead, Al.
I agree with Brian's first statement. I don't think you have the right to make a editorial at the start of our meeting. I also, on the second page, I don't know who drew this up, but we have 2 15s. Little things like that, the misspelling of words and stuff, it don't show much professionalism.
I agree.
Thank you.
Jason?
I want to thank Mr. Bowling for his comments. I also want to just point out that we have unlimited licenses for grow facilities in the township. What we've been discussing and our focal point has only been for provisioning centers. And I just want to point out at the beginning of our conversation, we didn't have examples like Sky Mints. You know, our examples were facilities, cinder block facilities on South Cedar, for example. And so a lot has changed in the climate over time, which is why we have been adjusting to that as we go forward. I also want to thank Trustee Fewens Bliss for his very eloquent and well thought out statement. I can't agree more with it.
Does anybody else have comment? Because I do. So it's my turn? Okay. Yes, Ryan, I would agree up to a point with what you're saying. The only thing I would have to say is, and for Al, yes, I do have the right to make the editorial, but that's okay. Yes, I do say whatever you guys want, and that's exactly what it is. It's whatever you decide to do. The we doesn't always come into play because communication on your end is a one-way street. And that's always really interesting for me. And that's okay. You want to do a one-way street. I only can do what I can do. I can't do any more than that. Yes, you have, Ryan, you're the only one that actually, well, yes, to some degree, you do put it into a phrase of a good question. Most of the time, it's pretty negative as to what's happening. My questions that I have here is, did the superintendent / management, Troy Feldman, did he do the Board of Trustee agenda? You guys would know that. Karen would know that.
Yes.
Did he do the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Did Dan Wojcicki do the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe I should clarify that. Did he do it or did you do it?
He did the role that I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I served in the role that Taylor currently serves in
That's
of
correct.
accumulating the documents and then sending them out.
And that's
He
what I
worked with the supervisor to draft the agenda.
Okay, he worked with the supervisor to draft the agenda. Okay, that's what needed to be said because Jason obviously wants to change from the supervisor to the superintendent. And what you're trying to tell me is, so how many years did you do it?
Once I became superintendent, I did it with Jack, and then I did it with you.
Okay. And that's part of the process. And Taylor, who has been an awesome editor in doing it, when you say there's misspelled words or you have a 15, that normally is double checked. I mean, do you understand the process that the agenda goes through? Because I'm not sure any of you really understand the process. The process isn't through an email. The process is done. If I do the agenda, then I send it to Karen, who she double checks, Taylor double checks. So that's 2 people. That's actually 3 people that have looked at it to do. Taylor's very, very good at what she does. Her statement to me is that she does what's sent to her. And my comment to her has been, Karen has a ton of pieces, and she does, of all kinds of stuff. So all she has to do is ask her for that if I'm missing something that needs to be put into it. I started sending it, Ryan, you were the only one who actually caught a mistake, even though it went through Taylor, it went through, Karen, it went through me, you caught it. From that point, I've been sending it to other trustees so that they too can look and see, is there an issue? Is there something you want to add to it? I don't hear from anybody. So I can only operate in my vacuum of where I'm at. So all of your comments that you make are really important comments, but they have to be taken in the context of someone working in a vacuum. And that's been the way. This is my 9th. That would be the 9th time that I've actually been a superintendent and Jason, or I've actually done the agenda, and he wants to change it. So my question is, for the number of years that people have been here, what does that do? The last thing we do, we here in the office between Karen, Taylor, and myself, and any of the trustees who have received the agenda, who want to respond to me about it, can certainly do that, and they haven't. Then we do the dry run, which is what Taylor and we talked about, where we're comparing to make sure that the packet matches the agenda. So for you guys, it's like, I'm understanding where you're coming from. Your frustration is really interesting, Ryan. I find that interesting because you of all people who have been here before, along with Joe and along with Al, with others, with other trustee superintendents, other trustees that you worked with. It's kind of an interesting concept that you bring in at my 9th meeting. It's not that I haven't been here for years and years and years to know, or there's even been a communication as to what's right or what's wrong. All there is this is what you're doing wrong. Some things I try to fix. And you're right, I'm a little cavalier about it because you reach a point of, oh God, here we go again. There's another complaint. You know, is there something that should be right? This process that we go through with all of these people who are double checking, triple checking, 4 times checking to make sure everything is okay. If it slips through, my apologies, they slip through. I don't know, like I say, Taylor does a great job of being able to double check. And she has written me many times and said, you're missing this part, or this spelling is not right. I have no issues with that whatsoever. I don't take that personal, never have. In fact, it's really good that somebody checks, because if I've made the mistake, I need to know that. So that when it goes to you guys, which again, you're not, I don't know what product you're seeing, but if you're seeing the sausage being made, I can't help that. The sausage is being made and it is being checked and double checked and triple checked. So, and I checked with Nick, is there something that needs to be added? And Nick is really, really good about writing back and saying, yep, you're okay, or no, you're not. This is what it should be. So I don't know what else to tell you. I really don't. And like I say, I wasn't your choice. I'm sorry I wasn't your choice. I'm sorry it's working this way, but you kind of set the rules early on as to how this should play out. And I can't help it. So whatever it is that you decide, you have to decide for yourself how it is you want to do it for the next 3 years. But I have a real serious problem that Jason wants to change our rules when the chance that I'm supposed to have had has been a 10-week or a 9-week chance or a 9 committee. It hasn't been years. Karen's been years. Taylor's been here. I don't know how long Taylor's been here. Where is Taylor? She must have gone. But however long she's been here.
I'm right here.
Oh, there you, thank you. Now I can see you. I don't know how long you've been with Bath Township.
I've been with Bath Township for 1.5 years.
Okay. So there's been a lot of agendas that you've done in 1.5 years. And the same with Karen, who's been here, what, 10 years?
Correct.
Working with your, what, third, you're the superintendent now, so you worked with 2 others. You worked with Troy, and you also had worked with Dan. So there's a lot of experience. So I don't know what to tell you, Ryan, or Jason. Go ahead.
So I just want to clarify something.
Sure.
The suggested edits to the rules of order is not just a me thing. This is more than just myself.
Yep.
And I do want to talk I have a different perspective as to why I am contributing the part of changing who creates the board packet. And that has to do with the role of the supervisor. I see the role of a supervisor as a leadership position, not as a manager position. There's subtle differences there. And I personally feel that someone in your position, your time is best spent creating connections with people, calling people, building relationships with residents and developers, going out and making new relationships, not doing the rigmarole of ensuring that the agenda numbers are correct and that we have certain things. And so the wording there is that is not that you don't have any voice in it, is that you provide a list of items to the township staff and then they put that work together, because as you point out, they have a lot more experience doing it. And so I'd love to see you spending your time in much more of a leadership capacity than, the sort of the minutia of agenda development.
What if I told you I'm already doing that?
Right. Then you could be doing it more.
I could be doing a lot of things more. But you see, your vision of what I do and my vision of what my responsibility is are two different. Leadership is absolutely part of what's going on. And yes, I do reach out to the community. And yes, I do. That's always been part of my role. And I take that very seriously. But I also take it serious, this board meeting. This is not something that I don't take serious. And that's why I constantly will say to you, if you got something, come forward. Anybody else? Go ahead, Joe.
I just cleared my throat.
Oh, no, your little thing lit up, so don't clear your throat too loud. All right, is there anything else? I guess we're ready to adjourn if there's nothing else. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Need a second?
Support.
I'm sorry,
That was me.
okay. You're too quiet. You must do it louder.
Rosecrans,
Yes.
El Marigi,
Yes.
Benzie,
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss,
Yes.
Ms. Howe.
Yes. We are adjourned officially. And it is now 1 minute to 9. So there you go, Al, before 9 o'clock.
1 minute.
Yep, in fact, that's mine says 9, this says 1, 2, so good deal. Thank you all.